Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome. It's Gill Barham, the Miracle Molecule host. And today I'm so excited and very honoured to welcome and wonderful Davina MacKail. Good afternoon.
Well, thank you, Jill, for having me on the show. This is quite exciting. It's all very new, this live technology, live streaming. It's like I actually have to really wake up and get with the real world. It's a bit terrifying, really.
Well, things are just moving on at such a pace, really, aren't they? Mm. And I'm actually quite proud that, you know, as older ones are keeping up with it all. I think it's...
You're doing well, because I do remember sending my first fax and being excited about that, which is a bit sad to admit, but I was very excited. I remember it well.
Yeah, we'll just gloss over that one, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for agreeing to join my light-hearted conversation. Before we get started, we've got some comments going on in the underneath as well, so we'll have a few of those logged up on the screen as we're going along. But before we do start into my light-hearted conversation with you, if you wouldn't mind, in case there are one or two people in the world that don't know who you are and what you're passionate about, would you just tell us, please, what you love, what you do?
I'm sure there's more than one or two people that don't know who I am. I'm a Hay House author of The Dream Whisperer and Feng Shui Basics. I'm passionate about many things, but mostly things to do with reconnecting us to nature, which is why I'm into shamanic practices, because that's so much about our relationship with the real world, the natural world as I see it, and our relationship with the elders, the green beings on our planet and the trees and such. I'm also passionate about people's relationship to their environment, which is why I also love Feng Shui and space clearing, because for me, home is metaphor of the self, as William Morris so succinctly put it, and it's so true. And when we're happy at home, we're more able to go out in the world and express ourselves. So I'm interested in all things to do with relationship, really, fundamentally. Our relationship as a human being with each other, with the natural world, with our homes, with our families. Everything's about relationship.
And you do some work as well with dreams as well, don't you?
I do, yeah. Well, our relationship with our unconscious mind. Again, it's all, whatever, really, if we boil it all down, I do many things, I have many different labels, but when you boil it down, it's to do with our relationships. Our relationship with the unseen world, our relationship with our unconscious mind, our relationship to our environment and to those around us. Yeah. Because that's what makes the world, really. We're not isolated beings, although many of us these days, with this wonderful technosphere that we're all partaking in this moment, and it's an amazing technology, but it does separate us as well as connect us.
Perfect. Okay, well, we're going to learn a little bit more as the call goes on about kind of your journey and how you perhaps got to where you are now and what you're doing now. But just to say that Davina has no idea what I'm going to ask her. Have you, Davina?
No, none whatsoever. It's all very mysterious. Yeah.
So as I explain normally, this show is really about showing the person behind the business, behind the brand, behind the whatever it is. A glimpse into the slightly more personal journey of my special guests. And so I have a structured question that everybody gets asked the same questions, which is really interesting. And then we're going to assimilate all of those interviews. The people that would like to be included are going into a commissioned book called Light-Hearted Conversations with People of Significance. And that book is going around the world in 80 days from October, from London back to London. And it's going to Egypt, Bombay, Calcutta, Hong Kong, Shanghai, San Francisco, New York, France, Ireland, doing the Jules Verne journey, basically. And so the idea is that if you all get asked the same things, then we've got something to compare and contrast and to see what the trends are and to see who chooses what. So that's the premise of the show. So are you ready to get going?
Ready as I'll ever be.
So my first question is, now you're in a capital city, you've gone into a very, very posh hotel of your choice, and you...
Oh, sorry, Jill, sorry. For some reason, the sound keeps cutting out. So I've gone into the lobby of a very posh hotel of my choice. That's as far as I got.
Okay, you're going into the lift or the elevator, and you're going up to the top floor for lunch. It's a very nice lunch. And one person gets in the lift with you, but as you get up to about the 6th or 7th floor, the elevator or the lift breaks down. Now, that's the bad news. The other bad news is that they phone you and they say, you're going to be in there for 2 or 3 hours. But the good news is that you've got windows, so you're not going to get claustrophobic, and neither is your guest. And also, you get to choose that person that got in the lift with you. So who would you choose to spend 2 or 3 hours with, dead or alive, anybody that you would love to ask?
It's such a toss-up, this one. It's really hard to come down. It would either be, I know I can only have one, so I'm going to have to
only allowed one,
in a moment. It would be a choice between the Dalai Lama and Einstein.
Okay.
I'd probably
go for Einstein.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Einstein.
Okay, and why?
Because on the premise that I could still meet the Dalai Lama in real life, because he's still here.
Yeah,
I could just imagine that scenario of the lift breaking down sometime on my journey, and I might be able to get that conversation with him. Einstein's a bit more tricky.
Well, we need to manifest it for you, really, don't we?
Yeah.
So what are you going to ask Mr. Einstein?
How he maintained his focus and his creativity. What really drove him? Because I know, and like me, there are so many. I mean, I think he's probably one of the most quoted individuals still, often misquoted, it has to be said. But his quotes are like apocryphal, aren't they? I mean, everybody quotes. I mean, I quote him myself, probably incorrectly or slightly like plagiarized quotes of his all the time. And I would just love to be able to have a conversation to get inside the way he thinks and his mindset, because I think he was one of the true geniuses that lived. So I want to ask him everything, really. Because he was very into dreams, which of course I'm into. He dreamt that. Yep. He was very into dreams, and this is what I love about him. He dreamt, apparently, this is one of those stories that who knows if it's really true, but it's widely researched and published, so one hopes it would be, that when he was 19 years old, he actually dreamt of the theory of relativity, or the basis of it, and he was dreaming that he was rushing down a ski slope, and everything kind of exploded into light, or this speed, so this velocity, and that got him into, he knew it was a significant dream, and that's what I love about him. At 19 years old, he knew that dream was significant, and it kind of literally led to his lifelong research.
Wow, I had no idea. He's such an enigmatic person.
And he also loved to sleep, which frankly I'm quite a fan of too when I get the chance. I love to sleep. I think sleeping is a very sort of like, people think, oh no, have less sleep. And I think, no, have more sleep. I like sleep. See, unless we sleep, we can't dream. Right? We need to sleep to dream. So if Einstein was having a particularly creative day, or he really had a nutty problem to solve, he would give himself a good 10 hours sleep. Whereas if he was just, working on the nuts and bolts, he'd have less sleep. So when he needed to be creative, he really understood the power of the creative unconscious and how it was such an amazing problem-solving tool. So that's one of the things. So I'd love to know more about his dreams and how he journaled them and documented them and how much they influenced his research and things of that nature.
Fascinating. How lovely. That's just given me a whole new way of looking at Einstein. How fabulous is that? And I have to say, I don't think anybody's chosen Einstein yet, which I'm quite surprised at, with over 40 people that I've interviewed in this series. Okay, so now then, I'm going to magic you up some lunch that you're going to share with Einstein. And I'm going to magic, can you hear me? He's struggling.
I'm going to actually take these out because I think it's going to be better if you don't mind. If it gets too echoey, let me know. Is that better?
Is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you better. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, so. Oh yeah, I've got echo now.
Oh,
yeah.
Right, let me try putting this. Sorry. Let me just try putting those back in and see if we can get it. It's just for some reason it's cutting out every time you mention it. It might be these.
Maybe they're not so new.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to magic you up a lovely table full of lovely linen and crockery and so on. And I would like you to choose food you would like to share with Einstein. So it's really about your favorite food. I'm going to magic it up like Harry Potter. It's going to appear suddenly in front of you. If you were sharing that time with him.
Yeah, that's a tricky again, because I love food, but I love all foods. It would have to be definitely organic, well sourced. Probably something like a sustainably good sourced fish of some nature. Lots of lovely organic green vegetables, berries, fruits of the forest. Some wild foraging. Would love some nice ramson, wild garlic in there, because that always makes everything taste, particularly with fish, and some fresh samphire.
I love samphire. I did my university degree was in Norwich, so we used to get samphire very easily. It's very much more popular nowadays, isn't it? It's much more readily available. But all those years ago, it was quite unusual to access samphire. I just want you to say hello to Andy Nobbs, because he's watching.
Hi, Andy.
He's giving us little messages. So nice of you to join us, Andy.
I'm glad you're getting a lunch break. That's something that we should bring back. Nobody gets lunch breaks anymore, do they? So well done, Andy, for taking one.
Yeah, we're very pleased with you, Andy. Okay, so my next question then is, I'd like you to take you back to the 18-year-old Davina. So would you share with us where you were living, what you were doing, what was happening for you at 18?
Okay, I was still living at home, part-time with my boyfriend at the time. And I was working in a hospice run by nuns in a place called Ditchingham near Bungay in Suffolk. It was a very extraordinary place. It was basically where all the local people went to die. They had two main wards, a male ward and a female ward. But the most extraordinary thing about that place was actually the nuns would be the anaesthetists for the operations. They also had a small private theatre where they would do fairly basic operations. Well, I say basic, they probably weren't that basic then, but things like hysterectomies, hernias, varicose veins, that kind of sort of general, privately. So they would have these private, and the nuns in full habit, right, with their masks on, would be the anaesthetists, right? It was quite an extraordinary place, but it was wonderful. I mean, that's really where, we both have similar nursing background. And one of the things, I saw lots of people obviously die there. That was the purpose of them going there. But it was great because it was because of the religious, it was Christian, but because of that, any religious connotation, you were able to honour the dead and really give them that time when they passed to be able to sit with them and to just let them be at peace and honour them before anybody would wash or prepare the body and things of that nature. So it was a kind of crazy place to work. It was very spooky. It was quite old. They had a weird little mortuary out in the garden where if the undertaker couldn't come to collect the bodies in time, we'd just wheel them out and stick them out there for a while.
Rose Cottage, no doubt.
Sorry?
Rose Cottage, no doubt.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And yeah, it was, as I say, all the sisters, matrons were all nuns, run by nuns. I have to say, you also did see the underbelly of religion. Yeah. In as much as, at that young, tender age, I tended to believe that people that believed in God might actually be good people, and I was somewhat disabused of that view. But they did their best.
So how did you eventually come around to the spirituality? Because spirituality isn't necessarily religion, as we know.
No, it's not.
So what was that journey? I'm jumping ahead, but I am fascinated because that brought something up for me about how you reconciled that religious hypocrisy, or that's probably too strong a word, with this very spiritual way.
I don't think it's too strong a word at all. I think it is hypocritical. I was brought up like I was confirmed. I was very much brought up in quite a sort of like, you must say your prayers kind of, even though everybody I saw around me was basically not doing any of the 10 Commandments, mostly, in fact, breaking probably all of them. And I'm thinking, hang on, I think at quite a young age, I was thinking something doesn't quite make sense here. I think I've always had an ability to see spirit. I was always able to see ghosts and things of that nature. So I've always been an odd child, shall we say, or an odd being, or slightly outside of centre. But when I had my true, and I wouldn't call it maybe a spiritual awakening, because I've always had a sense of there being something else, and I've seen other things. But my shamanic awakening, or what really changed my life, was actually it was much later on. It was in 1992, and I hitched to Tibet from Gulmud in China, which is a really quite inauspicious place, and I don't recommend anyone visits it. It's this sort of just a few concrete, I mean, I don't know what it is now, but then it was a few concrete bunkers and a few pieces of, it was like, the tumbleweed would roll across the landscape. And I was with a girlfriend who's since passed, and we hitched this lift to Tibet, which was this is the only way. Tibet was closed from Nepal. We were desperate to get to Tibet. It was one of those missions. And this was the only place that we discovered that we might have a chance. So we went, I mean, it was a place that just all these old Chinese guys with lorry drivers, basically, were all drunk and marauding. It was a really rough place for two blonde Western girls to be. Not, when we're pretty fairly young. I wasn't recommended on that level. Anyway, sort of innocence is a great protector, because if we'd actually known what we were about to embark on, I'm sure both of us would have just taken the next flight home, but we didn't. So innocence and a vision of a destination was what drove us. So we ended up hitching a lift in the back of this truck, and because to go through all the checkpoints, we actually had to hide in the back, because we would have, under all the goods and under the canopy. And it really was like one of these, it was obviously not horse-drawn, it was an engine-drawn, but it did have like the old covered canvas wagon on the back. And I, being a nurse at that time, and obviously hypochondriac, was terrified of altitude sickness, and had briefed my friend on all the signs and symptoms. If we get this, we've got to come down. And because it was the highest road of the world, I had this idea that somehow we'd be going up the side of a mountain, it would be like a steep incline that would have a kind of down to come down. But of course, it's not like that. It's a very gradual incline over miles. It took 47 hours to travel 1,100 kilometers, just to give you an idea.
Wow.
And there was nothing. There's a few yaks, and that's all we saw. And the occasional sort of dusty old truck stop that was really just a shack selling chili noodles on the side of the road. I mean, it was, thank God, the truck driver was kindly on one hand, because he lent us his yak blankets, otherwise we'd have died, even though we thought we had all this protective gear. I mean, our fruit that we took for the journey froze in the van within 20 minutes. It was so cold. It was like minus 20, minus 30. And of course, he drank white spirit, alcohol, all the way on the journey, 47 hours of it. Obviously, it helped him deal with the altitude, I don't know. So he became a lot more amorous as the journey progressed too. So my friend and I were constantly fighting with each other. It's like, you sit next to him, because we're both squashed in the front, like that. You sit next to him, like, while he's feeling up your leg and all the rest of it, right? And then he would, like, if he didn't like one of them, he'd just thump us instead. So, we had to keep swapping around on that. But the altitude just started to get us, because obviously you're meant to acclimatize every 1,000 meters or whatever it is, and we didn't do any of that, to the point, and this of course was way before mobile phones, internet cafes, all of this connectivity that we have today. I mean, nobody knew in the world where I was sending postcards home that would arrive 2-3 weeks later if I was lucky. So at the peak of this journey, and I think the highest part of that path, about 5,200 meters, we were so sick, I was hallucinating. And, we were in minus 30, he'd stopped the truck. We broke down twice. I mean, and there's nothing out there. So thank God he fixed it, because otherwise I don't know what would have happened. I mean, maybe another truck would have come past one day. And it got to the point, like, even just bending down to pick something up off the floor of the cab in the truck, we would be breathless. And it's like a really weird reverse motion sickness. So when you were kind of going along, you were almost unconscious, but you could just about be okay. When he stopped, oh my God, that was it. Like vomiting violently, both ends, violent diarrhea. I mean, really sick, hallucinating. So I just basically had a complete out-of-body experience. I was convinced, I was quite happy to die, because I was feeling so awful that I let go of any sense of surviving that journey. It was just, one of those journeys I remember, because obviously he didn't get his wicked way with either of us. So by the time we reached Lhasa, about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was like something out of a 16th century Dickens novel. We arrived, at 3 in the morning, there's just packs, there's nobody around. There's just like packs of wild, rabid, marauding dogs Right, and gangs, they completely owned the streets in 1992 at 3 in the morning. So they were, and of course the monks think they're reincarnated monks, so they're all allowed to live in whatever sort of strange form that they appear. Right. And we could barely lift our rucksacks. In good old Lonely Planet, we kind of looked up this sort of thing, and he just like kicked us out unceremoniously on the street in the middle at 3 in the morning, and like all these dogs. I mean, it was terrifying. And we were so sick, we weren't really kind of aware of how terrifying it really was. And we just like staggered up to this derelict building. It didn't look like it was a hospital or anything. Bang, bang, bang. And eventually some guy came down in his long johns. Bless him, let us in. So we sort of collapsed on some bed and just thought, what the heck was all that? And to come here, you know, what are we doing? And then I woke up in the morning and I actually felt I'd arrived in heaven on earth. It was a crystal blue. The woman who ran the place came and woke us up about midday. I mean, we slept for hours. We were so exhausted and sick. And she came, and I came out, and I remember this so clear. There was this little Tibetan girl in full kind of Tibetan dress and all the rest of it. She just saw me. I mean, total stranger. She just saw me as I came out the room. And she just, her whole face lit up in this amazing smile. And she just ran at me, jumped into my arms and gave me this enormous hug for no apparent reason. It was a beautiful sunny day, blue sky, it was a beautiful breakfast of fruit. It was like, oh, wherever I've been, I've landed on the other side. And it kind of all started from there, really. And everything in my life changed from that moment. People we met, synchronicities increased, strange coincidences, phenomena. Then I came back and met my first shamanic teacher, and again, strange circumstances. And then it's just been, you know, literally sort of when you're ready, the teacher appears. It's very much been a journey like that. I mean, when I went to school, you know, we'd never heard of the word shaman. It's something that found me. It continues to find me. I've never gone seeking for it because I didn't know what it was until I did.
Yeah. Most people haven't, I don't think. Okay, so just, can I take you back just to that 18-year-old? And can you tell us what music you were listening to at the time?
No. And that's quite genuine because I have to say, oh, actually, no, that's not true. Because my boyfriend at the time, no, I do remember actually, because my boyfriend at the time was very into Frank Zappa. So I listened to a lot of Frank Zappa.
Okay. All right, so we're on our way there. My next kind of milestone is 35, which I guess is after this this bit. So what were you doing then at 35?
Gosh, you're really pushing me here, Jill. I've got to have a memory timeline lapse now to think about what was I doing at 35. What year was that? Let me think.
I don't know because I don't know how old you are.
Yeah, no, I'm just working it out. Sorry. Okay. Oh, yeah. So I was just around finishing. Like I was working in the telecoms industry, so I was traveling a lot, setting up telecoms companies in places like the Philippines, India, Hong Kong, China, in conjunction with doing my feng shui training. They were kind of in parallel at that time.
When did you stop being a nurse?
Pretty much after I trained. I did. Yeah. I went and did a degree after I trained. I did agency nursing to finance my degree. I did a lot of agency nursing to finance many things. So I kept nursing in the background, but I never did it as a full-time career.
No. Well, it's difficult to do it now because you either are qualified and you have to keep your qualification or not.
I just let it go. I kept it up.
I know you let it go. I'm amazed that you've kept it going all this time.
Well, I've always done things to do with health and well-being, and I'm always continuing personal development. So I've always had the course, I've always been able to do that, and I've always done things that require nursing that just maybe not mainstream.
It's quite interesting. There are lots and lots of parallels with some of the stuff that I experienced as well in terms of working in small hospitals and all that kind of thing. Okay, so you were traveling the world with the telecoms. That's just bizarre. How did you get into that?
It's like I never really planned my life, Jill. Spirit definitely planned my life. I have more vision and more sort of focus around directions now. I kind of fell into things. It was like, okay, I've got to pay the bills. I need a job. It was a little bit, what can I do? And I tended to find, and I'm one of these people that I can go in and I always get promoted and I always end up kind of running the show because I just am quite capable in that way. It's like nothing really phases. I don't have business qualifications. I have absolutely no idea how to run a business really, but people seem to think I do. So I would end up, like I went in as a PA to this guy who was running all these telecoms companies and just ended up being the sort of CEO and setting up companies all over the world.
So you were very much travelling.
Yep.
You didn't have. Did you have a base or not?
I had a base, yes, in, just outside Cambridge. So yeah, I was. I mean, for example, I would commute to Moscow. I'd be in about 2 years in Russia, 3 days on, 4 days off. That's not a bad flight, only about 3.5 hours. So I can remember, and we had a joint venture with the State Television Centre in Moscow, and you'd get searched by guys in Kalashnikovs before you went to the office. It was quite pleasant, actually. Quite hunky Russian soldiers. It's fine.
So did you have a partner?
I can think of worse journeys to go to work on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you have a partner at that point?
I did. Yes. And he was fine with travelling. He was quite independent as well. We always took separate holidays anyway, so we had different interests. But...
All right, brilliant. So how interesting that I mean, there's just so much to know between. Okay, so my next round, if you like, is a from the heart quick fire round. So these just require kind of little short answers.
You're trying to tell me something there.
No, not at all.
I'm joking.
No, not at all. So these are a kind of either or. So are you a TV or a radio girl?
Radio.
Fiction or non-fiction?
Both.
Are you the
I
oldest?
am equally both for that one.
Equally both. Are you the oldest, middle or youngest child? I get so many oldest children. And at school, we mentioned school briefly. So were you...
I'm the oldest, and I'm also an only child, though.
Oh, you're the only child?
I'm the only child of my particular mother and father, but I have many half-sisters, either with the same mum or the same dad.
Oh, okay, who are all younger than you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So at school then, were you the goody two-shoes? Were you the class clown? Were you the bit of a handful, or were you under the radar?
I was goody two-shoes until I went off the rails and then became the rebel.
Okay.
Sorry? I didn't hear that last bit. No. I've lost sound again. Sorry, Jill, you're going to have to repeat that again. No.
The rails? Take it out for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I back? Back in the room.
Yeah. Yes.
How old?
When I went rebellious. During my GCSE, so 14, 15, that kind of age.
Okay, so a bit of a rebel. So a mixture of the two. Okay. And what would you say is your best habit?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. Getting things done, actually. I'm pretty good at getting things done. Being organised and getting things done.
Okay. Fab. And so what's your worst habit?
The absolute opposite of that. Procrastination. I have equally balanced in those two. I can have days when just can't ever kind of, wind into gear. But yeah.
Well, that's true yin and yang, isn't it, really? So, what else would we expect? Yeah. Messages saying that you are the Stardust child.
Oh, bless.
Bless her. And so the next question then is, what do you do to relax?
Good question. Read books.
Okay.
I love reading. I could spend, if I ever got the chance, I would spend days in bed reading. Yeah. That's my idea, just not to get up and just lie in bed reading books. That's my idea.
Cool. And do you have any nicknames?
No. The only one I ever had was at school, by my best mate at school, who used to call me, do you remember the old woman off Coronation Street, Ina Sharples? You probably do.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's Ina Sharple, and my original surname was Chadwick, so I used to, in fact, I was going through some stuff, my mum moved recently in all my school books, and I found all these school books with hairnets, little drawn hairnets written over them, so I did have one friend that would call me Ina, from Ina Sharples,
Ina Sharples. I do remember that. Okay, and now you perhaps don't know this, I'm not sure. Got a music degree. Oh, I've gone again.
Yeah, no, you're back.
Before I did my nursing qualification, I did a music degree, so I did mine the other way around.
Right, yeah.
And so if I'm on stage and I call you up to sing with me, what would be your karaoke song?
Actually, it would be, oh God, I've got to try and remember. Steve Cockney and the Harley Rebels, Here Comes the Sun.
Oh gosh, I haven't heard that for years.
Yeah, and I'll tell you when that seminal moment of that song. When I was nursing, I lived on the 14th floor of Grantchester House in Cambridge. I trained at Addenbrooke's, and when I did nights, it was no health and safety in those days. We had these great big swing windows, and you could open, I mean, honestly, you'd never get rid of it. You could actually open them full up. And on a sunny morning, because I never liked getting up early, so I loved doing nights because it meant you could go to bed when everyone else had to go to work. It was marvellous. Yeah. And it never bothers me staying up all night. I like staying up all night.
I'm not an early morning girl either.
Yeah. But it was where I remember it so clearly. I used to play that full blast and open my window, top of Granny House, and just sing that out.
You've done it all.
Yeah. I'd have that played at my funeral too, not just on stage.
Okay, we'll write a note about that. Yeah. All right. So my next scenario then, this is a scenario. I've been with my husband for 35 years this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And 2 years ago, we went off to America. We did a month in America. We did 8 states, 3,300 miles. And we were with each other for 24 hours a day, apart from one day when he went off into the desert on a Harley Davidson. And we didn't have a crossword the whole time we were away. So one of the things that happened was that we had a travel consultant who organized the flights and all the hotels for us. So we just needed to show up. So it took all the stress away. So I thought you were going to say then that you had the travel consultant with you on the trip to make sure that to harmonise things and mediate. No, definitely not. Yeah. I think she would have liked that. Yeah. So my question to you is, if I did the same thing for you and organised a lovely hotel and flights and everything for you, who would you take away on holiday that you could guarantee that you could spend a whole month with without a cross word?
My business partner, Nizami Cummins, without any shadow of a doubt. I've been on those journeys with him, so I know that for a fact.
What's his name? I missed it.
Nizami Cummins.
Nizami Cummins. All right, I'm sure he'll be delighted that you said that.
He's the only person on this planet that I could do that with.
Fabulous. Okay, and we're going back to a music thing. So as well as the book, because of my music thing, what I'm also doing is I'm putting together a playlist of light-hearted songs. So I'm asking all of my guests to choose one song that would go onto my playlist that makes them feel light-hearted. So what would that be for you?
It's still back to Here Comes the Sun. I mean, that always cheers me up. I love that. I mean, there are many songs, but I'm not good with the names. There's a lot. I have a very eclectic music taste. I listen to things across the board. There's another one, but I don't know the name of that. It's a spiritual rap by a guy called Asterius, I think his name is. And it's just about extension. And again, that is something that just fills you. It's a very fast, crazy rap, but it's a spiritual rap and it's amazing. But I could send it to you afterwards, but I can't give you the...
Yeah, you could. Just do that. If that's the one that you'd like included in the playlist, so choose either and then send it to me and then I'll include it in the playlist, happily. Cool. All right. So we're getting close to the end, but my last question to you is all about the thing that I'm most passionate about these days, which is looking after your heart. Mm-hmm. And you probably know I've written a book called The Heart of a Woman, How to Look After the Heart You Give to the World. And what I'd like to know from you is, in two senses, not sentences, but senses, what do you do to look after yourself physically, but also emotionally and spiritually? What do you do to look after the heart that you have to give to the world?
Many, many things.
It dropped. We just lost Davina. She completely dropped off. Let me show, I've got a lovely message here from Marina. Hello, Marina. She said, it's love Davina's message. In my reality, all that matters is dreaming big. So your dream could welcome more than one person at a time. Here she is. Oh, she's back. There you are.
Okay. Yeah, I lost you. So looking after the heart. I do many things because that's such a huge part of my work. It is the path with heart shamanism. So one of the things is that I light a candle or light some incense or make an offering to my ancestors and the tree beings of the land that I live in every day. I sort of say hello to Pachamama. I don't believe necessarily in that we have to have these incredibly long dogmatic practices. I do believe in the sort of 1 minute connection, that remembering. And so my remembrance is to my ancestors, you are not forgotten. And to the green beings and the trees, because the trees are our landlords. They're the landlords of this land. It's those green beings out there that give us the breath to live. If we're not looking and connecting them, and I think, if we think of the heart chakra, that is the heart chakra is both green and pink. So it's the green of the trees and it's the pink of the blossoms. So I'm always like imagining just being in symbiotic relationship with the green beings and blossoming the heart. And what I said earlier that I think may have been missed on the recording is very much about speaking our truth. And speaking our truth in a way that's authentic and gentle, so it's non-confrontational. Because I truly believe in that, if we're projecting it out there, it's because we've not owned it inside. So it's not about projection, but it's just like being able to find the courage to speak our truth. Because so often we've been shut down and we've been terrified, and then we keep it all locked up. And if we can't feel free, to live and be who we are, then that, for me, is what really cuts down our heart. And to understand that love is a free-flowing, liberated emotion. All of us, we get a boyfriend and the boyfriend hurts us, or the girlfriend hurts us, or a partner hurts us, or something happens and immediately our reaction, because this is how we're taught, is to close down. So we put that little energetic barrier, and then of course we have that wall around us, and then no one can get in. And actually, so it's to open into the closed places and to keep opening into the closed places, to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to allow ourselves to just keep opening. And that's the blossom. The flower keeps blossoming. Look how vulnerable a flower is. The wind comes and its beautiful velvet petals are just scattered to the winds, but it's fully blossomed and it's fully open and it's fully doing its thing. And that, for me, is the way to look after the heart, to keep opening into the closed spaces.
That's absolutely beautiful. I have so many people who don't say it as eloquently as you. They might not, but I'm sure that they mean it, because their way of looking after themselves emotionally and spiritually is to get out in nature and to do that love and connection thing, which at the end of the day is the most important thing. And certainly in my journey over the last kind of few months, working up to the last year, working with people like Rachel and to some degree, and also to Marina, who owns the platform Radio Works World, and the other mentors that I'm working with, is understanding that actually it all really is about you and the work that you do on yourself. And another top tip is the Japanese art of forest bathing. Just go and sit in the forest, breathe with the tree. Yeah. Talk to the fairies, talk to the spirits, stroke your house. We're connected to all of it. None of it's an inanimate pile of bricks. It's really understanding there's a living spirit in everything. And I very much, my company, shamanic company, is called Ayni, A-Y-N-I. It's a Quechuan term, meaning nothing ever goes one way. And if we really live that principle, which is the sort of many indigenous peoples really understand that principle, nothing ever goes one way. So it's the same as do unto others as one would like to be done unto ourselves. And it's really learning to live, to come out in the Western world, our whole sort of educational system and everything has been so much about creating competition. You think about when you were a kid, playing musical chairs, what do you learn? To be in competition with your best friend, because there's only going to be one chair left. There's not enough for everybody. So we have to get out of this mindset of lack. That's what stops us being open, because we think, I've got to hold on, I've got to close down, I've got to protect. And actually, it's so liberating if we do the complete opposite of that. So, and the trees, nature, look at nature. Nature teaches all the time. The tree doesn't go, whoa, too many leaves, I'm going to be a bit smaller. The tree just goes, hey, here I am, look, and I'm going to keep growing and growing and growing and be all that I can do. That's just really lovely. Truly lovely. And I think that even if somebody didn't know who you were before now and didn't want to connect with you, they're mad if they don't want to do it now. Because I think in this 21st century world, and we do, you and I are sort of on the same track in that you look at it from that sense, and I look at it from the 21st century world and what it's doing to us physically. But my message is the same. It's actually, whoa, let's slow down. Let's go back. Let's not forget what was happening even 50 years ago. I went to Albania recently. I went to Tirana to talk at a Global Woman Conference. And, a lot of the women that I were with were so shocked about the way that the country was run and the very misogynistic way that it was run and so on. But actually, it's not so very long ago, and we forget because technology has just changed our life. That 50 years ago, my father didn't want my mother to work, for example, and he would take her and pick her up at the end of the day. And I say that to my daughters, and they say, "What? What do you mean?" Things have just done this amazing change, and for us physically and emotionally to keep up with what's happening in our 21st century world is a true challenge. And and people like you that are opening the eyes of those that want to be enlightened, and I applaud you and thank you for that.
I applaud all of us that are choosing to, but also we're lucky because we can remember when people couldn't get hold of us 24 hours a day, when we could disappear for a while. And I like to bring it back. I think it's important because I don't think our DNA, I don't think our physical, beings have actually managed to catch up yet. With the technology superseded us now, and so we're in a kind of danger zone in a sense. So we need to be able to manage the transition better by just stepping back into some of those older practices. And breathing, just remember deep, lovely lungfuls of gorgeous breath, conscious breath.
Yeah, it's what brings you joy, definitely. Okay, thank you so much. Now, before we go, I've got your website here that I'm going to put up. Is that the...
Oh, you've gone again. Hello?
Gone again.
Back. Yeah, there you are. There's two. I have my personal one, DavinaMacKail.com, and then I have the more shamanic one. Can you hear me?
So I've got your Davina MacKail one.
And then there's ayni.foundation, AYNI.
Oh.
AYNI.foundation, which has more of my shamanic things. Like
Sorry, the sound's just going in and out.
Yeah, can you hear me or not? Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Yes, hello? I can hear you. I can hear you really well.
I don't know whose connection it is, but one of us has got a bit of a dodgy connection. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes,
I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me? You can't hear me now, can you? I can tell. Shall I
to connect with her? I'd really like you to tell us, Davina, I don't know if you can still hear me, but I'd really like you to tell us. You can hear me. So I'd really like you to tell us finally what you're excited about in the next sort of few months, what's coming up for you, how can we connect with you, what really is happening for you, maybe up till Christmas and so on. What's going on?
I'm just about to go to Poland to co-teach 2 weeks of Kambo training. I work with this medicine, this secretion from a frog from the upper Amazon, which is amazing benefit to physical being and physical health. So I'm off to do that. I'm negotiating to buy a piece of land, with a group of us, in the rainforest in Peru, to be able to have retreats and do proper medicine planting and dieta and really grow some of the indigenous plants and to give back something. Organising to go out to Peru to the Apus to take a group next March. And continuing with that, we do a 1-year Natural Wisdom Leaders training program. So we're in the middle of that. We have an amazing group. And so, busy, basically.
busy.
Fabulously busy. Do you know what I mean? It's all work I love. It's all work I've got on the planet to do. And that's, you asked me, how did I get into things? It has taken a while of falling into things until finally I'll always evolve, and maybe this won't be what I do forever because there'll be something else. But the things I do now, it will be an evolving in the same field because I've definitely come home.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so I can't get your website up, and I think I've probably got the wrong one anyway. So when we post this, if you could give me a link
I'll
to the
email
website,
you. Yeah,
email me or message me, and we'll post your preferred website so that people connect with you and see how they can work with you and so on. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, Jill. Thank you.
Having a light-hearted conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have too.
I have. And the questions were okay. You did good. They were excellent questions. Have a lovely day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.